really know what's going to happen, right? I'm on a boat, whales come by, you sink, and that's the end of it. When you're running around, traveling around the world, jumping on buses, getting on airplanes, you never know what's going to happen. And I tend to live kind of day to day, kind of week to week. And a lot of that personality, you can see it in the site. You can see some of these random behaviors, and you can see some of these not kind of businessy maybe decisions or patterns. People sometimes find us and they have a completely different idea what we're really all about. This didn't start as a company. This didn't start as this software firm that was going to sell a bunch of products to people with kind of standardized expectations that's not what we started out as. And so I like to make sure to remind everybody that we're trying to do the best we can to transition from more of a community and experiment into an actual company that has expenses and responsibilities that are entirely not around when you don't start out that way. Question?
Yeah, I was just going to ask how you managed to carry on such a long project as BuzzTouch if your whole bent is to do it like week to week.
Yeah, it's challenging, and so maybe re-ask the question. I'm not sure what you're asking.
I mean, yeah, if your way of working projects is sort of week to week, how do you manage to carry on this multi-year BuzzTouch?
Yeah, so far I feel like we're pretty lucky actually that we've been able to kind of pull it off. But I think ultimately it's just about getting help.
Yeah.
And so last year I've gotten a lot of fantastic help from a lot of fantastic people. Most of them are on the About Us page, and you just try to find people who are good at things that you're not, and just letting them, do what they do and listen and take advice. And so most of it's about getting help.
Yeah.
My whole life has been independent. I haven't had a job in a very long time, and I'm super creative, and I feel very fortunate that I've been able to make my living on this internet thing for as long as I have. But I just want to give you that kind of picture of who David is, even though you might have already heard it, because I think it's important as you maybe look at the next thing that I make, right? Or maybe ask the next question from me. I think if you have a bit of a different perspective than you're asking this company to help you with this product you bought, it's a different kind of relationship, I think. So anyway, thanks for having me. We're going to talk about some basic stuff tech-wise. I don't want to get too technical, but I always do. I'm a technical guy. My brain works, in zeros and ones, and coding is just easy for me. And so I have a different view than most people, and that tends to kind of stray me into some weird technical conversations a lot of people don't understand. So just stop me if it gets kind of out of hand. And none of us are, you don't have to be bashful. If it doesn't make any sense, just say, hey, that doesn't make any sense. And then we'll have to figure out how to steer the conversation, or maybe write that part down and help you individually later or something like that. So before I'm intentionally not showing any code up here yet because I just want to get through some bullet points. Another important concept, and I've heard it for years now, is from my perspective compared to everybody else's perspective, I don't consider the apps you're making to be BuzzTouch apps. They're just apps, right? And to David, it's really important to me that when somebody makes an app using BuzzTouch or any other solution, that they don't flavor it up as, look at my awesome BuzzTouch app. It's your awesome app, however you figured out how to make it. If you took a photo with an iPhone, you wouldn't say, look at my iPhone photo. You'd say, look at my photo. It's a cool picture. You made it with whatever camera that you use. And I think we all tend to fall into that little bit of a trap. Trap or whatever, but we fall into that kind of vocabulary because we know what that means as a group. But outside of our group, people don't really know what that means. They don't care. It's a good app. But they don't necessarily care how you created this thing. And so I want you guys to not think of the projects that you make on the site, off the site, with your friends or by yourself or whatever, as BuzzTouch apps. They're just apps. And so it mostly comes from a lack of understanding between the difference between a regular app, whatever that is, and a BuzzTouch app. And so there isn't a difference in my head. They're just projects. They're just iPhone projects. And so I want you guys to use the terms apps instead of BuzzTouch apps because it'll help you. And when you're getting on the internet to get help, or you're looking at a reference book or a document or whatever, if you have a separate or a distinction in your mind about, oh, this doesn't apply to me because I have a BuzzTouch app, you're going to be at a disadvantage. You don't have a BuzzTouch app. You have an iOS app or an Android app. That's really important. So clearly it's been assembled in a standardized way that we all share and kind of embrace and understand. And surely there's a lot of code that it comes with as compared to maybe starting fresh in Xcode new project or whatever. But ultimately it's still just an iPhone app. There's nothing proprietary about it, secret about it, closed up, hidden from you. It's all just Objective-C code or Java code that you can type yourself or hire someone to type for you. And it isn't magic or secret. It's just a nice way to start the project. And it's iOS or Android or whatever. So not BuzzTouch apps, just apps. And I've been saying that forever, and we'll all call them BuzzTouch apps. I understand that that's going to keep happening, but it helps me. I like the idea that I kind of tell people, just call them apps. It helps me feel a little bit better about what I'm trying to do. Because I'm not trying to help people make BuzzTouch apps. I'm trying to help people make apps. Big difference. We don't want any credit for what you do, right? We don't want to fly a flag necessarily and force our brand on your project, right? I mean, we could, and we've talked about maybe ways to, down the road, to maybe do exactly things like that with you, but that isn't what we're about necessarily right now, right? We're not trying to say, look at all these amazing BuzzTouch apps. It's just a different kind of thing. Which is why people say, where's the showcase on the website? Well, we found that when we start showcasing everybody's apps, then other people outside of our community say, look at all these BuzzTouch apps. Well, that doesn't help you, right? You're Joe Smith and you work 6 months to make an awesome app using our community or our approach. We throw it on our website and it suddenly becomes ours. That doesn't help the person who made it. We don't want the press to write an article about this awesome BuzzTouch app. And oh, by the way, the developer, we don't know who this is, or it's John. No, it goes against the grain of what we're trying to do. So we don't brag about the projects. People ask me all the time, what are your favorites? I say, I don't know. There's tons of them. There's just a long list of people making software, cool ideas, cool names. I don't have a favorite list of things that I've seen. I just don't think that way. They're all cool to me. They all have kind of valid reasons or whatever. So back to my little bullet list here. The third item, which has a lot to do with this, it's not a BuzzTouch app, it's just an app, relates to, I think, what Kitsy said when someone comes on the forum and says, can I do that? I think that's an interesting question which we get every day, right? Emails come in, can I make a XYZ app with BuzzTouch? And my answer to myself every single time is, well, can you make an iOS app do that? A person just getting started doesn't generally ask, can I? They assume they can. Right? And they'll be walking down the street and they say, I want to make an app that lets people take pictures of Oxford colleges or whatever. They don't think, I wonder if I can do that. They think, how am I going to do that? And then somehow when they get to BuzzTouch, it turns into, can I do that with BuzzTouch? And there's that disconnect all of a sudden because they think they're getting something different somehow. It's just an iOS app. So of course you can. It becomes what's the best approach and how hard will it be? I mean, certainly they're valid questions. But if you think it's somehow different, I think you also think that there's a standard list of things you can and can't do. And that's just not the case.
I think the big problem with that though is other people try the more famous, easy app builders.
Perfect. That's
and
exactly
they get
right.
there, they find out they can't do this. The first thing we ask is, well, what can't I do?
That's exactly right. And so that takes us into the kind of next point that's really important is, so the takeaway from the last item is, yeah, you can. It might not be easy, right? You might have to do it completely by yourself, but it's your project. Do whatever you want with it. We're not limiting you by saying that your project can only do these things. We try to make it easier to do a lot of things that we think you do on a regular basis, for sure. And hopefully that list of things that we make easier will keep growing. But can you do it? It shouldn't even be part of the conversation. It's how do I do it? Or how long will it take? Or what's the best approach? Or who should I hire? Right, to help me with this piece or something like that. Just like if you didn't have BuzzTouch, you'd be in the same situation. You'd open up a new project and you say, how do I do this?
Yeah, but I think the people ask that looking at the plugins that
Yes.
are available.
And it's
That's
a natural
where the
question.
comes up.
No, that's exactly right. So as we're in the forum communicating and helping and seeing these questions, I've had the opportunity now, as of today, to talk to you about all of you in person now. So I can say to you, yeah, that should be your mindset when someone says, can they? You should just kind of chuckle a little bit. And of course you can. Just say, how? That's the mindset. But it's a totally natural question. It's a totally natural question, especially coupled with the idea that they've come from somewhere else. It used to be that they would come to BuzzTouch first. No one did this. There was no really, I feel like we kind of invented, me, this idea that I could go to a browser and put together a project and off I go. Now there's dozens and dozens of different spins on that same idea, and most of them absolutely do live because they're the inception of their project, the beginning of their project, they had a profit motive from the beginning. I'm going to make a company that helps people make apps, and therefore I need to charge money, and therefore I need to have a differentiation between this price and this price and this price, and that differentiator is going to be the features that they can add. You see it every day. Joe App Builder 2.0, do this for $50, do this for $100. That's the difference. And so it's obvious now that if you come to that site and then you come to our site, you're going to be thinking, what can I do? What can I not do? What can I do if it's free? What can I do if I pay? Right? And so it's fundamentally a different approach. And so people ask me, what is the difference between what we do and what the others do? And of course, you can't answer that, literally for competitor by competitor or system by system, but you can say just kind of across the board. I think the biggest difference is we don't deliver anything secret, proprietary, magic. We don't claim to have this special thing. We just give you a project. And none of the others seem to do that. They want to call it something else or put it in a cloud or wrap it up in an SDK, or they have all these different kind of spins on how to protect their profit motive. We just give you a project. So that is fundamentally different than anything that I've found.